Hello and welcome to That Shooting Show. My name's Steve Anderson. I am your humble host. Want to say hi to our YouTube viewers after numerous comments, suggestions, complaints, criticisms, and helpful suggestions. We have decided to put some of these podcasts on YouTube. So I want to say hi to all of our new YouTube viewers because YouTube is the future, whether we like it or not. Hooray for YouTube. What's next? TikTok? We're going to make Chinese lip sync videos. Hey, if you want it, we'll do it. Want to remind you we are a proud service of Walther Firearms. We took the PDP down to Tennessee this past weekend. I guess that makes it the Chattanooga Pew Pew. And I had a young man there who will remain anonymously known as Scott, who was rocking the Canic. And the Canic is pretty similar to the Walther in numerous ways, with one glaring exception. The Walther worked. I'm not going to say the Canic didn't work, but I'm going to say that the Walther worked all of the time and the Canic, not so much. But that's okay. If you get a Walther and it fails to stimulate all of your senses in the way you like your senses stimulated, Walther has a 30-day money-back guarantee on the old Walther PDP and all the other competition-appropriate Walther firearms. If you get one and you don't like it, Walther will send you a shipping label and you will get your money back, no questions asked. Well, they might ask one question. Only question they might ask is, what's wrong with you, bro? This is a great gun. Now, they probably won't. But that's okay. They will give you your money back if you don't like it in any way. Just go check out a Walther PDP. And while you're at it, check out the new integrally suppressed Walther 22. I believe it's called the Pew Pew Pew. Stand by for product announcement on that, maybe coming later. Targets USA, as you know, manufactures the finest steel targetry on the planet. It is portable, it is affordable, it is the best. It is so portable that I took it with me down to Tennessee, where it performed flawlessly. And of course, CR Speed, as you know, makes the finest gun handling gadgetry you can wrap around your waist or anywhere else. The mag pouches are cut out perfectly for your index finger, and let's face it, when your index finger goes where it's supposed to go, everything just gets better. A good reload is a function of having the gun and the mag at the same angle, having the finger high and straight on the magazine, and looking the magazine into the mag well. If you do those things, you will get a great reload. And of course, the closer to the firing position that you are, the better that reload will be. And CR Speed facilitates that in a glorious way. And of course, the AMG-lab.com Commanderson timer continues to turn heads and blow minds by putting the time into the tablet. And anytime you're working on a stage or a drill that has multiple elements, it's very helpful to go looking at the biggest number first. It's very easy and very, I suppose, intuitive just to try to go faster. The problem with going faster is, by itself, it's going to increase your tension level and it's going to increase the number of mistakes that you make. Thinking about doing things sooner, thinking about reducing the big numbers on the stage, that will get you to the result quicker. And the AMG-lab.com Commanderson timer continues to put those times into the tablet, so you can see them. And of course, Hunter's HD Gold is the only eyewear that I wear. And if you're YouTubing, you can see that I are wearing it right now. It just makes the whole world look better, right? You go outside, the whole world just looks better in Hunter's HD Gold. And that reminds me, when I first met Brian Connolly, he said, yeah, these lenses are the same ones that are used to treat depression in North America. And I said, aren't we in North? I'm no geography whiz. But aren't we in? And he meant North America. I'm not sure. It must be north of Canada. I don't know. But at any rate, it makes the whole world look better. That's all there is to it. You won't need to take them off during the day. It gets brighter, you're fine. Gets darker, you're fine. You won't even know the light conditions are changing because your vision never changes. And of course, OutdoorDynamics.net remanufactures the finest competition ammunition you can dispense from a Freedom Seed dispenser. And if you're dispensing OutdoorDynamics.net ammunition out of your Walther PDP, you have got the best of both worlds. You'll just be dispensing. Right? Dispense. The Canic guy might be racking the slide a little bit. You'll just keep on dispensing. And that's how that works. And of course, ShootingSportsInnovations.com is a lot to type because there's a lot to see when you get there. And it may or may not be the official roadside sobriety test in North Carolina. All you can do is try it. You get pulled over in North Carolina, just whip out your phone, type in shootingsportsinnovations.com. You may or may not pass the roadside sobriety test based on that brilliant feat. But Whether you're roadside sobriety tested or not, once you get there, you'll be treated to a vast array, a cornucopia, if you will, of shooting products, many of which you didn't even know that you needed. And speaking of things that you didn't know that you needed, you can always go to andersonshooting.com, click on upcoming classes, and see what we got going on. We're going to be doing a free mental management preview at least once a month for the foreseeable future. I don't see any reason why we can't do one a month. April is sold out. May is got, I think, 2 spots available, and then we'll set one up in June here very shortly. But if you've been curious about mental management, you don't know what's about, you think it might help you, come join us for a free preview. Just go to andersonshooting.com, click on upcoming classes, and you can see all that goodness right there, as well as everything else we got going on. What you won't be able to see is we're going to be in Maine at a place called Buxton Hollis Gun Rod Club. April 21 through 23. There's, I believe, 2 spots left for that. That is not on the website because it's being handled by a third party. So let me know if you went in on that. Just email me, steve@andersonshooting.com. What you can see is Bend, Oregon, May 13th and 14th. We'll be there with the mighty Mark Sue. It's going to be wonderful. And of course, anytime you want to do mental management, if there's not a class listed there that's to your liking, just shoot me a quick email. Hey, I want to do mental management. Here's when I'm available, and we'll get you all fixed up. So I got a couple letters here. The first one comes from my good friend Joey Sauerland. Now, if you're in the Ohio area, you have probably seen the stratospheric rise of Joey Sauerland. And if you're not sure who he is and you're in Ohio, he's probably the guy with the perfectly sculpted body wearing shorts that are a little bit too short. That's how you'll notice him first. And then when he shoots, you might forget about the shorty shorts and be more interested in the shooting than the shorty shorts. But until he shoots, the shorty shorts might distract you. But Joey is the guy who got into USPSA, came to see me a couple of times, at least twice, maybe 3 times. And he fired roughly 3,000 rounds in live fire before he made master class. Most of those rounds were fired on our range. And he got the rage to master, and he's just doing outstanding. Went from a relative USPSA newbie to being on the Masterpiece Arms team, along with my buddy Andrew Hyder and my good friend Travis Tomasi. Pretty good template for success. So he wrote me a letter, and here's what he says. Steve, as I said I would, I shot a new Hundo P on the classifier at my club match yesterday because that's normal for me to do. Once it's entered, I'll have made Grandmaster class. It's a milestone for sure, but I lost sight of that goal due to an obsession with the process. Over the last year, I seldom thought about making GM. Instead, I was focused on becoming and doing the things that the shooter I want to be does. I was focused on becoming and doing the things that the shooter I want to be does. If there's a goal that you want, what are the habits and attitudes of somebody who has reached it, somebody who has done it? Are you doing those things? So we have a very detailed podcast today. As Sean Hannity would say, we're going to go through it in great specificity to figure it out. You asked for podcast ideas. I think an episode on becoming would be good. Fear not, that's coming. P.S. I caught a trainee of mine at the gym weighing herself every day for weeks straight. I knew she was trying to lose weight, but she was not. I explained to her that she was looking for success on the scale and the result of her habits and actions, and that real success would be found not on the scale, but in her everyday life. Did I make it to the gym today? Did I make good eating choices today? That's where success is found. She quit weighing herself and started losing weight. I told her she was becoming the person she wanted to be. Woo-wee! As the young people would say, we'll circle back around and unpack that later. But the bottom line is, if there's something you want, your habits and attitudes are either consistent with that or they're not. When your habits and attitudes are consistent with the goal that you want, that's when you'll get it. And we'll get into greater detail on that here very shortly. First, we got a couple more questions from Joseph. Joseph is our most prolific, persistent podcast idea presenter. We use a bunch of them. And Joseph, I want to thank you for continuing to submit these. We do as many as we can resonate. So he says, I got a pistol match in late July, annual police and fire games, that is very USPSA style in Virginia Count. with more severe penalties for misses. What is a good ratio of matches to compete in versus match mode dry fire between now and then? In my area, I could potentially shoot 3 matches per week, but I don't have a range to conduct any effective live fire. Thanks. So my initial question is, or to this is, do you need to be a better competitor or do you need to be a better shooter? That's what we need to know. If you need to be a better shooter and you're a great competitor, then we need to practice more because you're obviously doing it right. If you're a great shooter and need to be a better competitor, then we need more practice competing. Let me just tell you again, your local matches are not going to be practice shooting. You don't get enough reps of anything to call that shooting practice. But you do get reps of practicing competing. And many people don't practice competing. They practice shooting, but they don't practice competing. And we talk about that a bunch. If you don't know the difference, we'll talk about that later. And then he followed up. He must have sensed my confusion. Perhaps a better question is, should I go to as many matches as possible, dropping $20 to $25 a week on match fees, taking half a weekend day to shoot 75 to 200 rounds of ammo, or am I better off shooting 1 match per month than spending maybe 2 hours for free weekend match mode dry fire at home, combined with my weekday morning and evening 10 to 15 minute sessions? The answer, of course, is always it depends. The only danger of significantly more dry fire than live fire is that it becomes normal to have the gun in your hand, but it becomes abnormal for the gun to go off. And that can cause grip issues, that can cause timing issues, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. The better your match mode, the less live fire you need. But people ask me all the time, what is the right amount of live fire? And I would say, as long as you're doing it right, as much as you can. One thing I don't know is that if time and money were unlimited, would you do 100% live fire? I'd say probably not. I continue to believe that dry fire, if you think about how many things there are in the sport that don't involve the gun going off, the only thing you can't train in dry fire is the second shot on a target. It's the only thing. Everything else you can do in dry fire for free in your own house at your own convenience. This guy seems to have a great match mode. So if you're already a great competitor, that's totally up to you, right? If you're good with the gun's recoil, that's not an issue. Grip is good, everything's fine. Sure, you can stay home and do match mode dry fire because you're not going to get enough rounds at the match to qualify that as practice for anything technically, except for, watching the gun go off and getting better at that. So hopefully that answers your question. If not, you just let me know. And then he sent me another email. He said, which brings up something some of your podcast audience might not know, how to be a better competitor. So this is about being a better participant as opposed to an absolute better competitor in that sense, but there's still some good stuff. Personally, I define that as shooting your match. It's good. So what does that mean? That means going out and shooting your game, getting a performance equal to your current level of skill. Let's call that a winning performance, right? Until you know how to go out and shoot your game and get a winning performance, getting the winning performance will be elusive. But once you learn to go out and shoot your game with no regrets, that becomes a winning performance. Training will make your winning performance the winning performance over time. Number 2, not watching anyone else shoot a stage. If you haven't, it's okay to listen to their gunfire because it's hard to block out. When I hear a GM shoot, I tell myself that's another human and I can get to that level if I put in the work. My eyes closed visualization is faster anyway. What a great point. If you stand behind the shooter and you do a visualization of your stage, you'll be done before the shooter. Even if you visualize 3/4 speed, which I kind of recommend, you'll be done first. Be an ambassador to new shooters. That's a great one. Not offering advice unless it is asked for. Then only give short answers and recommend instructors. So yeah, I've been down that road. Most of the time when you give people unsolicited advice, it's just that they don't really want it and you might just confuse them. So I think that's interesting. Get there early whenever possible to help the staff. Stay late to help clean up. Man, they love that. Avoid politics, even if you bleed red, white, and blue. Submit stage designs. Actually read the USPSA IDPA rulebooks, but don't quote it from memory, it matches. Be ready when it's your turn, actually ready when on deck. Bring extra gear and be willing to loan it out. Praise all squad mates, keep the mood upbeat and team-oriented. Avoid war stories, even if you have really good, true war stories. Understand there is often no actual prize for first place. Stay out of scoring disputes, that's a big one. So that means, if they're arguing about a mic or a double and it's not you or a valued teammate or a close friend, man, just get out of there. Particularly at larger matches, you don't need that drama on your mind, and the shooter and the RO really don't need a lot of your input on that. So just stay away from that. Invite spectators. Conga line walkthroughs okay, just don't cut the line, otherwise stay out of the way. No chit chat with people who haven't shot. If you video someone for them with their phone, ask them what they want you to focus the lens on: feet, hands, reloads, draw, muzzle, etc. Load magazines ASP. Take care of range officers without kissing up. Hydration, taping make their job easier. And so here's the thing on that. If you are the most polite shooter on the range, you may get the benefit of the doubt on an iffy judgment call. Meaning your 180 might turn into a 179 if you're their favorite shooter. I'm not saying that they're going to bend the rules because they like you. I'm just saying that some of these calls are quick. Some of these calls are a little subjective, and the nicer you are, the more benefit of the doubt you're going to get. Take compliments, even if your performance needs work. Well, we could do a whole show on that one. I'm going to underline that. We'll circle back and unpack that later. Take compliments even if your performance needs work. So let's unpack that a little bit now. If you burn down a stage and somebody says, hey, great job, and then you tell them 6 things that you did wrong, number 1, that's damaging to your self-image. You're taking a great performance and finding flaws with it. Number 2, it's a little disrespectful to the guy that liked your shooting. If somebody thinks enough of you to give you a compliment, say thank you very much. Pardon me. Give it 100% effort. Otherwise, just spectate until the match is over. Remember why you shoot matches, otherwise it is not fun. One of the things Lanny Basham says about the right amount of mental effort to win the Olympics is it's pretty close to let's just have fun today. So think about being an Olympic gymnast and you're working on your floor routine with your snazzy background music. You've done it for 9 months or so. You're maybe probably longer than that. Your coach turns to you and says, okay, you're up. Let's just have fun. How much confidence would that take? Remember, gang, confidence is at least 30% of performance, and the more skilled you are, the more important confidence is going to be. Okay? All right. What are you becoming? Who are you becoming? We'll probably think of better clickbait than that, because I don't know if that's great clickbait. Darren Wood in Dallas already knows because he's already listened at 1.5 speed, so he knows what the clickbait is. Darren, if you're listening, send me a text message and tell me what the clickbait should be because you already know. He's like the Back to the Future podcast listener. So, becoming. Becoming is the steps between where you are now and where you want to go. That's what Joey mentioned in his letter. He was focused on doing the things that the shooter he wants to be would do. I did that when I was on the road to Grandmaster, and I didn't know any of this stuff back then. And I didn't even really know what a Grandmaster did, but I could identify those things throughout the day. For example, when I get home from work, what would a Grandmaster do? Crack a beer and watch Friends reruns? Probably not. Go dry fire? Probably. Becoming. So number 1, what is your goal? People talk about reasonable goals, unrealistic goals. So a reasonable goal is not going to inspire a lot of changes to habits and attitudes. An unreasonable goal will inspire a ton of changes to habits and attitudes. What is worth making significant changes to your life? What is it that you want in the shooting world that is worth making significant changes to your life? That's the right goal. Number 2, why do you want it? This is called pay value, and it is the only thing that will inspire change. So every change you have ever made to habits and attitudes was inspired by pay value. If you made a change to your life because your spouse wanted you to do it, you identified some pay value in making that change. If you made a change by yourself at work, You might have had negative pay value hanging over your head. Hey, if you don't shape up a little bit, you might be looking for a job. So negative consequences can take the form of pay value. But every change you've ever made to what's normal for you to do is a result of pay value. If you're thinking about taking up a dry fire program, if you think about starting a diet and exercise program, these were all inspired by pay value. There's something you want different than what you're currently getting, and that pay value, that thing that you want, is the only thing that will inspire these changes. And once you've identified the pay value, what are you going to do about it? What are the differences between you and someone who has reached your goal? For example, if you want to be a world champion, what is the difference between you and Eric Greffel? Are you capable of finding and eliminating those differences? He made a post a while ago about his live fire program leading up to an important match. I couldn't even do the math, but it started at 1,000 rounds a day and ended at like 2,500 rounds a day. Is that what it takes to be a world champion? I don't know. But that's something that a world champion is doing that you are not doing. You may need to do it, you may not. But that is a significant difference between what he's doing and what you're doing. What does a national champion do? How do they train? How do they prepare? Are you doing those things? What does a state champion do that you're not doing? An even easier example is a local match winner. Are you outworking your local match winner? So your local match winner, your local hot dog, has a bullseye on his back the entire time. And if you want to shoot for that bullseye, the first thing you got to do is learn to be a better competitor. We can help you with that. And then you got to outwork that guy or that gal. In any region in which you want to be the best, whether it's local, state, national, or the entire world, are you the best in your state, in your zip code, in your country, in the world at everything the sport requires? Make a list and evaluate whether you're the best in your region at what your sport requires, and then go to work on that. Now, once you've identified that, what habits and attitudes do you need to change to reach your goal? A habit is a daily routine because of small decisions made throughout the day. If you look at your day, there are things that you always do and things that you never do. Those things are either consistent with your goal or they are inconsistent with your goal. I always dry fire an hour a day. That's very consistent with reaching a goal. I never go to the range for live fire. That might be inconsistent with your goal. An attitude is a settled or established way of thinking or feeling about things. Here's some potential attitudes. I hate to dry fire. I think it's boring. It's probably inconsistent with a goal. I love hoser stages. Well, that's great. Hoser stages, I do too. That's a great attitude to have. Unless the flip side is, I hate technical stages with a lot of partial targets. Here's another one. I look forward to major matches because I know what I'm going to do when I get there. I struggle at classifiers. So attitudes have a way of predicting the future. Wow, that's bam. Somebody might want to write that down. Attitudes have a way of predicting the future. So maybe habits predict the present and attitudes predict the future. Well, that's pretty deep. And then you're going to set up a new set of rules to live by. So you live your life according to a set of rules. I always do this. I never do that. Those rules are either consistent with your goal or they are inconsistent with your goal. We need to examine those. So there are some things that you know you need to be doing, but you're not currently doing. What are they? If you're not meeting or exceeding a regular practice schedule, you're probably not getting closer to your goal. If you're making the same mistakes over and over again in competition, you're probably not consistent with your goal. So make a new set of rules to live by. I always get double-digit reps of my stage plan. I always commit to a singular focus with a point of focus or a focus phrase. I always get a subconscious performance by thinking about something else. And failure to follow these rules will be a result of insufficient pay value. Weight loss is the best example. It's very difficult for happily married people to lose weight because their life doesn't change a whole lot. So most people, most happily married people that are struggling to lose weight, it's a function of insufficient pay value. The juice isn't worth the squeeze. But those of you that have been married and single and married and single and married and single know it's super easy to lose weight when you're single, because now we have pay value. Now we're trying to market ourselves. Pay value. So anytime you're not doing what you need to do, it's going to be a result of insufficient pay value. And we hear a lot about deadlines when we talk about goals. I want to make masterclass this year. Okay, that's cool. I want to be a grandmaster in 2 years. That's cool too. The deadline is only useful if you can increase your level of participation exponentially. For example, I want to be a national champion. Well, that's great. You put in the work, that will inevitably happen. Versus, I want to be a national champion this year. That's going to require significantly more changes to habits and attitudes than doing it eventually. Now, that can be extremely helpful, right? If you have the ability to take a year off work and double down on training and dramatically increase your level of participation, a deadline is phenomenal and very, very motivational. But if you can't, the deadline is going to be very frustrating. And it could cause you to overtry in competition because you're so focused on the goal as opposed to the process. Remember what Joey said? Let's go back and find Joey's letter. It's the one with the short shorts. That's not Joey. That's Joseph, and Joey. Okay. I lost sight of the goal of Grandmaster due to an obsession with the process. Over the last year, I seldom thought about making GM. Instead, I was focused on becoming and doing the things that the shooter I want to be does. Focused on becoming and doing the things that the shooter I want to be does. The shooter you want to be does some things. Are you doing those things? Now, making mistakes is going to be part of this process, particularly mental mistakes. Every new mistake is a step closer to your goal if you learn from it. Every old mistake is a step further from your goal. And this is where the journal comes in really handy. And those of you mental management graduates that are not using the journal, you're doing so at your peril, because the journal is literally where you write a book about your best shooting. So you can't go buy a book about how to shoot your best for you personally, but you can't write one. Every time something goes well, every time you getting what you want on the range, you can write a book about the mental conditions that are present when you're getting what you want. You go back and read that, you have got a recipe for what you need to do to get what you want. Hey, when I do these things, I get a great result. You don't want to write when I don't do these things, I screw the pooch. Canine eccentric courses. You don't want to write that because you're not going to forget that. But you might forget what you were doing when you were getting it right. And that's really important. As I've said numerous times, shooters know far more about their worst performance than they do their best performance. We want to flip that around so that you know precisely what mental conditions are present when you are shooting your best. Consistency is a function of the quality of your thoughts and your ability to duplicate them. So if you know when I think these things in this order, I get this result, what a great template. But if you don't know that and you can't do it, you're going to be waiting on the luck, right? It's fascinating to me how many shooters, pardon me one second, how many shooters think that there's some magical force at work when they go to matches. What is that magical force? Is there something going on in the atmosphere that dictates where your bullet lands, or are you potentially in control of that? I would submit that you are absolutely in control of where every single bullet goes if you choose to be. And you'll make mistakes for sure. Every new mistake is a step closer. Every old mistake is a step further away. And as I've said before, your goal, whatever it is that you want, is either impossible, possible, plausible, likely, or inevitable. Man, I sure wish I could be a GM. I just don't know if I can do it. That's a possible goal, close to impossible. I am going to be a grandmaster at some point as a result of my habits and attitudes. That goal is inevitable. I am going to be a national champion as a result of my habits and attitudes. That's inevitable. And then it's just a matter of time. Now, this becoming business And I don't know if that's going to be the clickbait or not. We'll figure it out once we review this program. Becoming are the steps and changes you need to make to turn yourself into the human being that can achieve the goal. One of the great takeaways from mental management when I first started doing it was this idea that if a human being can do the thing that you want to do, have or be, all you've got to do is turn yourself into the human being that can do it. That's all you got to do. It's a little bit difficult to measure short term. If you take up a brilliant training program today and you make a bunch of changes, you start dry firing for an hour a day, you're not going to be a whole lot different on day 2, day 3, day 4. Day 20, day 30, day 60, day 90, you're going to be dramatically different. And pay value is what causes the repetition of these abnormal ideas until they become normal. And it's going to be a result, you reaching your goal is going to be a result of new habits and attitudes becoming normal and permanent. There's things you need to think, there's things you need to do, there's attitudes you need to have to reach your goal. I will be happy to help you set those up. In fact, the third class of mental management, Mastering Self-Image Change, is all about setting a goal and examining your habits and attitudes compared to that goal. And your habits and attitudes are either consistent with that goal or they are inconsistent with that goal. Your job is to make your habits and attitudes consistent with a human being that has or can achieve that goal. All right, folks, hope you've enjoyed today's program. As always, you can go to andersonshooting.com, click on upcoming classes to find out where we're at and what we're doing. If you want a free class in your area and you have access to a competition-appropriate range, you can get the class for free. If you're interested in doing that, you just let me know. And until we meet again, be like me, do what I do, say it with me. 1, 2, 3, get to work.